you're feeling bored, if you're feeling unhappy, if you're feeling dissatisfied, getting clear, are you going to just continue that way for now? And if you are, then make that choice. Or are you in a place where you're like, no, I want to make a change. I want to love my day-to-day experience. I want to feel that excitement and that passion again. And I want to feel like that unstoppable woman.
Welcome to The Way of the Muse, a podcast for women who want to create richness in every area of their lives, from business and career to lifestyle, relationships, family, purpose, and fulfillment. I'm Gigi Sage.
And I'm Makena Sage. We're a mother-daughter coaching team, and combined, we've spent over 4 decades helping people create their best and most fully expressed lives. If you're ready to step into your bigger dreams with ease, fun, and flow, you're in the right place. Let's get into the episode.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
Hello.
Today, we're talking about bored with your career or business. Should you leave or grow? So this is one we hear a lot. People going, I don't know. I've gotten to this point. I'm successful. I don't want to necessarily, I don't know if I want to make a change, but just I'm not very excited about what I'm doing anymore. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about what you see here, Gigi?
Yeah, I think we see a lot of times people start to feel dissatisfied in their business, and question, is this it? Like when they started out, it was exciting and they're earning, and then it gets to a point where, all of a sudden it feels different, and it starts to feel like a job, I think, a lot of times. And the other thing is this the way things are going to keep going? If I continue, is this my life, right? Is this my business? Because I'm feeling so burned out and I'm not sure that I want to keep on going like this. And that we see a lot, because and often I want to say we see that with women, right? They just work so hard at creating and getting going and getting their business successful. And then they look around and they go, where's my life? And
not just their businesses, a lot of them are in careers. Some of the stories we're going to tell today are career women. They're in corporate careers or, small businesses or whatever that might be. And same thing, they're working. And then one day they go, I don't know. Is this it?
Yeah. And what I find is a lot of times people don't know how to tweak without throwing everything away. So they think, I should just quit, or I'm done with this business, or I'm done with this career. I don't like this job anymore. We've had that, right, McKenna, many times happen. We can share a couple stories with that where they say, I'm going to move on to a different company. But then, as we will talk about, when we work with them, they start to see something changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So first of all, I think, why don't you share a story of, someone that you've worked with and they were maybe in this position, and what did you see and how did you navigate this?
Yeah. Stories are the best way, right, to illustrate some of these points. So as you're listening, you can really see what can you apply to you. So one of our clients, when she came to us, she had been in business for many years and she had reached a plateau basically in her business where she wasn't really growing much, like a little bit, but not much. And she was super burned out and felt she was having anxiety attacks, I think almost every day, similar to my story in that regard. And she really, a part of her wanted to grow her business, but she felt like she didn't have the energy to really grow or to even see a vision she was excited about. And so when she came in and started working with us, I remember for her, it wasn't that she had some big vision other than, I'd love to grow my income. I'd love to grow my business. And sometimes we see that when people are in this position, they can't necessarily see a vision because they're so in the weeds kind of whatever is going on. So the first thing we really did with her, and this was a few years ago now, she's still working with us to this day because she's had such huge changes and transformations and continues to. The first thing we really did was we looked at where were the energy leaks in her life, in her business and her relationships? Like what were the drains on her energy or her time? And that was a wide variety of different things, right? It was everything from she was having conflict in her marriage and arguments with her partner, recurring conflicts there. She had, certain pressures or breakdowns with her kids. She had in her business, she was working totally engrossed in the day-to-day of her business, had very little support, and was really just in the doing, like they say, kind of working in the business instead of on the business. So those were just a few areas. We started to really break down each of these pieces and go, okay, how do we address these energy leaks? And Gigi, maybe you want to share your approach to this is around every pressure needs a system. We did a podcast episode on this, right? So
yeah. So I think because you worked very much with her, was starting to see where were the pressures. And it's always good to go and look and see where's the one that stands out the most? Where's the one that's really, really pressuring you? And as you said, sometimes that can be personal. And that's why we love, and that's why we work so much, with the women in our mastermind. It's not just about business. It is very holistic about every aspect of your life. Because like for her, I think part of the thing that was happening there is she had just kind of numbed herself out. And that's what happens. That's when we get bored, right? When we're so numb. So what we start to do is then we go, okay, where's the most pressure? And then what is a system that would start to alleviate that pressure? And we work those one after another. And it's incredible what starts to happen when you start or when you begin to get a system for something that is basically kind of running your life. All of a sudden, if you think about it, it frees up time and energy. And so that's really what we do when we do that through, a lot of our women come back and work with us for years because they're ever evolving and growing. And we're always looking to see how do you get yourself again in that state where you have that energy flowing and your frequency is you're getting higher and higher in frequency. And how you do that is by starting to set up those systems that alleviate the pressure that's in your business and your personal life.
Yeah, it's kind of the snowball effect that it feels like these are tiny little things. What difference would this make? But each one that you free up, you have to imagine that that's energy. That's why we call them energy drains or energy leaks, is that's energy that's been leaking out of you. And then we clean that up, we clear it out and, create a system, whatever that might be. And sometimes, by the way, when we say system, that can also be a communication system. Sometimes that's teaching a communication skill that people think it's so complicated. You were just saying that before we got on today, Gigi. Like, oh, relationships are so complicated. What did you say about that?
I say people think that when they have issues in their relationship, it's so complex. But the truth is, it's one simple shift can completely change the dynamic in a relationship, in a couple, in a business relationship. And that's what we show, is if you're willing to start to look and see, first of all, your part in things and then make the change. Because remember, we can't change anyone else. We can only change ourselves. Then those small little subtle communication tweaks can open up everything. And then again, we're talking, there's energy starts to flow, and connection starts to happen again. Because I do want to say this, when you do have those pressures in your system and they are there, they are not just in the relationship with your partner, they're filtering down into your business, in the way you show up in your business and the way you show up with your kids and the way you show up in your family. And that's why it's so important to look at your systems as a holistic thing.
Yeah. And that's, the course you're running right now, right? The Way of Growing Love is really about that. It's really about the communication skills and these systems, because that does impact every area of life. So we'll link that in the show notes if anybody's curious about that. But coming back to this idea of clearing up these energy leaks. And then the snowball effect is like, as a snowball rolls down the hill, it gets bigger and bigger, picking up snow along the way. It's like every bit of energy you bring back in, that's energy you now have that before you were feeling drained and bored and tired because you didn't have that, right? There were all these different leaks going on, maybe at your work, probably, but also most likely in your personal life and in other areas. And sometimes this is also like old, stuck, like emotion in people, right? So that was another thing with this client, was we really came across, or we discovered as we were working together, areas in which she was holding on to old anger or resentment or upset. And that was really sort of gunking up the works, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we have processes we really lead people through to clear that up and out, not to go in and just reprocess it and keep, recycling the story or whatever it is that happened, but to be able to really move that energy up and out, because that too is kind of creating we don't use the word block, but it's creating a hold in the energy that we want to free up so that your vitality can come back online again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Because what happens when you begin to put those systems into place and free yourself up is inspiration starts to kick in again. And, we saw this too with a woman who she is in a business. It's not her business, but she works for a company, and she was feeling very frustrated and, a little bored and questioning, was she in the right place? Did she make the right decision? And when we started to work with her and saw a lot of the pressure was around that, she had a lot of undelivered communications, and she couldn't really talk about those, or she felt like she couldn't. And the truth is that when she did, she ended up complaining and blaming, and that doesn't get us very far. But again, she had no idea about how to do it differently. And so as we worked with her and really showed her a new pattern of communication to where she could really share what was going on with her, and be curious about, the boss that she had also opening up to what was going on with him. And what happened was then she felt heard. She all of a sudden had these skills to be able to feel heard, but without being a victim. And the change that happened within just a matter of 2 weeks was incredible, because he started to open up to her. He really started to build a bridge with her. She started feeling inspired by her work. And all of a sudden, of course, money started to move. And, it's such subtle little things. Like I said, sometimes we make things so complex. But the other thing from my experience is people just don't know what to do. It's not because they have bad intentions. As most people, we weren't taught how to communicate. We weren't taught how to say things in such a way to where it's a win for everybody. And so, of course, we're unconscious and we just blurt out, and we end up creating more mess than really more harmony. So,
yeah. And in her case, I think there was certain things in her personal life too, right? So it was manifesting partially or largely around her career, where she was questioning. But when we dug in deeper, there were things to address on a personal level as well. Can you want to touch on that at all? Or just what do you see there often with people in terms of maybe not necessarily her, but that there are, often there's things going on again in their relationships, or they're not taking care of themselves, or what do you see there?
Absolutely. If we have a pattern of communication and it's around blaming or complaining, normally we're doing it at home and at work, right? We don't have, if we don't know how to do it at work, we probably don't know how to do it at home. And that was for her. I think, again, she was more complaining and not really asking for what she wanted. And also, as you were mentioning, McKenna, which I talk about in the Growing Love, a huge part is she wasn't taking care of herself. And, you must take care of yourself first and fill up your own cup first, because then that really allows you then to be in a space of, first of all, having energy again, and then also being willing to make changes that will enhance your relationships. Because when we're drained and frustrated and bored, we really don't want to change, right? We feel a little self-pity, and like if somebody's going to change, they should change first. But again, going back to that is when we fill our own cup up and we take care of ourselves, then what happens is we have a new kind of energy, and then we can really go out and start to make changes.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here and say what I would have said a few years ago, which is, well, Gigi, you know, I'm going to pretend I'm one of these women because now I definitely care for myself first. But I'm going to say, you know, so how am I supposed to take care of myself first? Right? I'm so busy. I am, you know, busy at work. For a lot of these women, I have kids at home. I have my partner. I've got all these different things going on. It's just not possible. You know, it's just maybe in 10 years when my kids are out of the house and, you know, then I can take care of myself, but it's really just not possible right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I would say this, it's always possible. And if your life depended on it, you would do it. You would find time. And to me, and this is what I share with all women I work with, your life does depend on it, because you are let's say, the battery pack for your family. And in that way, you're the most important person in the world. And, you know, if you think about it, turn off Facebook, turn off social media for 30 minutes a day, and instead take that time and focus it on you and really find, you know, a couple of things that truly nourish you, even if that's going and sitting out on your balcony and drinking a cup of coffee and not scrolling on your phone, whatever that is. Start with little baby steps, because those little times will add up so much time and energy for you. So I'm going to tell you, no matter how busy you are, you absolutely have time to carve out time for you. And so finally it gets down to really committing to do it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right on. And we see when women do this that it really makes a shift, right? Yeah. What comes up for me as I'm role playing this, though, as I'm being in the energy of this woman, is like this feeling of just like frustration and resentment of just like feeling like I give to so many others in my life. And so is that, you're saying like the key to really shifting that is to start to put myself first? Or how do I, you know, it's almost like this feeling like I don't even want to do that because I feel so frustrated and a little resentful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and we get caught up in that, you know, and when we work with women, we go deeper into that. But it is the thing of a little bit of going and taking that walk in nature every day, or, you know, sitting down and journaling in the morning and making sure you're by yourself for a few minutes. What happens is you start to feel your soul reconnect to your soul, and in that, energy starts to build. And then you can start to see how to navigate if you're feeling resentful and you're doing too much. From first connecting with yourself, then you can start to see where are those pressures in your life and start to see how to get support, maybe, or delegate or eliminate some of the things that you're doing so you do have more time for yourself. But first, set that aside and make that time for yourself, and you will absolutely be amazed, and keep it consistent.
Yeah, we had a woman on the mastermind call this morning who, in the Wealthy World Changers, who had this pattern of giving to everybody else, right? And putting everybody else ahead of herself. And it was interesting because through the coaching this morning, she really saw that was a choice she had made. Yeah. That was the other thing. She was like, that she's really a powerful woman who made this choice over years to really put her family first, or put her partner first, or put everybody else first. And that was great in some ways, but also she overextended and overdid it. But she had ultimately the choice. And that was really impactful for her to see too, that, you know, she is choosing now to shift that in certain ways and still, of course, be there for her loved ones, but really to prioritize herself. I really see that there's this like badge of honor that, especially for women, around overgiving and sort of self-sacrificing. is there anything you could speak to there? Because I see it with people, and it's hard to watch, and it feels very, I guess, cultural, maybe, that like that's what's revered, or that's maybe what women think is expected of them, or what they should do to be a good person. I'm not sure where it comes from or if that even matters, but it's just this interesting thing where women think, and maybe others too, we just work primarily with women, but they wear it as a badge of honor that they're like self-sacrificing themselves.
Well, one thing is women love to give, that's the other thing, is it's in our nature to care and to care for. When it becomes like that badge of honor is when we become important in it. And what I find sometimes is that women continue to do this because they're scared to have that space and time. They really don't know what to do with themselves. And, that's why we say, look and see what nurtures you, and have that thing to do. Because a lot of times a woman would say, well, if I'm not caring for everyone, what do I do with my time? And it does make us feel important. It makes us feel like we matter,
valued. That's like where a lot of women, I think, start to derive their value, is from giving to other people, but then it gets to be too much and they start to feel frustrated or resentful underneath, but they worry, if I don't do this, what value, especially maybe women who aren't working or something like that, but even women who are, right, who really have this pattern. Yeah.
And I mean, we could go into a whole thing there too, especially around women and motherhood and things like that. We feel like if we don't do it, somehow we're guilty and we're not doing what we're supposed to do for our children. And that's a whole, rabbit hole.
We're going to do a whole episode on mom guilt. That one's coming. So if you're listening to this and you're like, that's me, then just know that that'll be coming in the next few weeks. So,
but going through all this, I think the best thing is, if you are one of those women right now, you say you have no time. Like I said, start paying attention to where you waste time. Start paying attention all that time you're sitting scrolling through Instagram, Facebook, or all that time you're, cleaning up when you really don't need to be cleaning up. And then take those times and say, wait a minute, tomorrow, this time, this 30 minutes is going to be for me. I'm going to set off my phone, off TV, and I'm going to do something. I'm going to take that walk in the woods, or I'm going to sit down and read a great book, because like for you, Makena, it's reading fiction books, so whatever it is for you, you have to see.
Yeah. And so what starts to happen here then is people clear these energy leaks, and as they, really start to do more of, like you're saying, what nurtures them and care for themselves first, then energy starts to build. And then what do we see happen a lot of the time? I mean, I'll speak for the one client that we were talking about who has her own business, and she started to have so much more energy, vitality, vision started to come online, where she suddenly was seeing like, oh, this is how I'd love to grow. And this is, for her, a big part of it was travel. She really wanted to travel more and spend time abroad with her family, or taking them on different trips. And she's been able to do that now. She's grown huge since then in her business, and is working a tiny fraction of the time that she was working before. And she has support in her business, and she has systems set up, and she continues to just grow and grow and grow.
She doubled her income.
More than doubled. Yeah. And is working, I think, half the time from when she started. And and so she's traveling now. They're moving into their dream home. Like, all these things are coming online. The other thing that was interesting with her is that vision started to come through around more meaning for her, like what was really important to her in her personal life, but also through her business, or different ways she wanted to give back. And that really started to create. So even though she didn't leave her business and transition, she stayed in it and has really grown it. Now she has such a different feeling around it. She's not bored in her business, right? She loves what she's doing. There's a meaning element, there's support, so that's really for her. What do you see in people like the women we've talked about who are in more corporate? And we've had multiple women who thought maybe they weren't going to pivot or might want to make a shift. And they ended up realizing like, no, I actually want to double down here and really stick in here. What do we see?
happens is they get a great new opportunity in the business because they shift their attitude. They get promoted, and often it's they free up time to where they can really focus on maybe their relationship. We see that often, that women, maybe they've grown apart with their partner and they really want to rebuild their love relationship, and so they get to spend more time there. Or they get curious and their mind starts to open up to more of like how they want to grow in a company. And then all of a sudden they get seen and they get promoted. I've seen that happen many, 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 many times. Yeah.
And sometimes a creative project comes on, or something they want to do in their personal life, and it's not that they need or want to shift careers. They're a lot happier and more fulfilled in what they're doing in their work, and then they create things in their personal life that are super fulfilling for them as well. I do want to touch on, before we begin to wrap this up, like people who, we've talked a lot about people who were bored or unhappy, and then they stayed in what they were doing. And we'll have other episodes where we go deeper into this. But I will say that for some people, you will find that you want to make a change.
Yeah.
That was really my story. Was I was bored in my business and I was unhappy and burning out. And through this process, I really saw, actually, yeah, I do want to do something different. So that may be the end result, but the process, I don't know if it's exactly the same, but there's still many of the same steps in there in terms of clearing the energy leaks, starting to move in a direction. We talked in the last episode about aliveness again. So if you haven't gone back and listened to that one, then that's a huge piece of the puzzle as well. But I just wanted to touch on the fact that for some people, they do see, oh, I do want to make a change.
Yeah, because when you do, those energy leaks go out, it frees you up. And then really what begins to happen is clarity dawns. You start to see, as the woman you talked about before, one of the clients, she started to see she really wanted to grow her business, and she saw a new way of doing that. And you really helped her with that and then you really helped her organize like how to do that, how to put that into action. So often someone will say, I do want to make a shift, and then they can start to transition, but they transition in a way with clarity instead of going out of it feeling, oh, I hate that. And, I don't want to do this anymore. So they go out with good energy in a very conscious manner and choose the next thing. And I've had the same thing with people around relationships. They're thinking, do I want to stay or do I want to go? And I always have them walk through same thing, clear out those energy leaks, get super, super clarity, do what you really see to do here. So if you decide to leave, there's no question that you did the most you could to make this work. So they don't regret and have all that guilt and everything.
Yeah. And something about what we've been talking about here is, like you mentioned at the beginning, people don't know how to make a change without just like leaving everything or starting over or throwing it all, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And so in that's something that you really walked me through when I was making a shift. And even for the people who decide they're not going to change, is the step-by-step. Once you start to see, then you helped me with the transition and then making that plan and then taking the steps and doing it in such a way that I didn't burn any bridges. And I kept great relationships with my clients that, were in my previous business. And some of them even came over and came and worked with me as a coach. I was doing marketing with them before. One of our longtime clients who's in our mastermind was a client of mine in my marketing business. And then she's come in, she's referred us business. So you helped me do it in such a way that I wasn't throwing out what was working, right? And I really was able to approach that step by step.
Yeah.
So all of this really leading to this theme that we're talking about right now, which is becoming an unstoppable woman. And what does that mean in this context, in the sense of you're sitting there feeling bored in your business or in your career, feeling dissatisfied, probably not feeling very unstoppable right at this moment, right? And so what does it take for you to really step out and into that energy where you're like, I am going to create my life the way I want it. I'm going to have a career that I love or a business that I love. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to get the support. So a lot of times we see that people hesitate or they get stuck. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like we see kind of people take two different paths here. Either they really go for it or what do you usually see around that?
I mean, there are the women who think, oh, when this and this happens, I'll do this, and when my kids are grown, then I'll finally do it. Or, when I find time, I'll finally do it. Or when, they have a lot of different excuses versus the ones who go, no, I'm going to do this now. I'm going to, because these years are precious and I'm going to do this for my kids, instead of waiting till the kids are grown. I'm actually going to go for my life for my kids, because the greatest example in the world is you living your life fully gives your children a role model to follow. And this is what I think women so many times don't understand, is you sitting around and waiting, then that doesn't give them that role model. So we really, really, you've got to choose which one are you, and whichever one you are. If you want to wait until your kids are grown, then that's perfectly fine. But in yourself, make a choice and then be happy with your choice.
What if it's not till their kids are grown? I mean, there's other examples, right? So that's one we see a lot of the time with women, like, so another example would be someone's unhappy in their career. I'm trying to think what it was for me when I was really sitting there feeling stuck.
Well, you did not figure out how to get out of it. It was a double bind all the time. Yeah, for you.
Yeah. I just could not navigate. I could not get clear. But also, I think even when I did, to your point about becoming an unstoppable woman here and like really just going for it, even when I did get clear, I actually tried to start coaching on my own a year before you supported me. And what I really see looking back at that, it totally flopped. And what I really see looking back at that is I wasn't fully committed. I wasn't, it was like when the going got tough, I was like, okay, it must not be it. I had a lot of fear and I had a lot of reasons, and I was waiting for the universe to show me that by lining everything up perfectly, in a sense, I was willing to get in there and work, but I was also wanting things to just kind of work. So this theme we're talking about around the unstoppable woman is really this piece of, really, at least for the sake of this podcast episode, if you're feeling bored, if you're feeling unhappy, if you're feeling dissatisfied, getting clear, are you going to just continue that way for now? And if you are, then make that choice, and then see how can you maybe be a little happier in what you're doing, focus on what is working, right? Or are you in a place where you're like, no, I want to, it doesn't have to mean you're going to pivot, but like, I want to make a change. I want to love my day-to-day experience. I want to feel that excitement and that passion again. And I want to feel like that unstoppable woman. That's what we're really speaking about here in terms of where are you right now and really getting clear and making that choice. Yeah. And then we have a masterclass. I don't think we've mentioned it in this episode yet, coming up on November 19th, 2024, if you're listening to this sometime in that time period, called The Unstoppable Woman. So this is really, if you find that you are listening and you're going, no, I'm in that boat of I'm ready to shift something here. I'm ready to, not throw out what's working. You don't have to do that whatsoever, like we've shared, but really see like, what is the evolution going to be? And I don't want to wait any longer. I don't want to sit in this any longer. So if that's you, then come to this free masterclass. You can go to wayofthemuse.com/unstoppable. And we're really going to walk you through a process to support you in stepping into that version of you. Yeah. So we'd love to see you there.
Yeah. So thank you so much for this topic. It's a good topic.
Yeah, absolutely. One we hear all the time. So we hope it served you, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah. Thank you, Makena. Bye.
That's our episode for today, but let's not make it the end of our love story. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and think of some women in your life you'd love to share it with. And if you want to learn more about our events and programs, visit wayofthemuse.com. See you next time.